last week and try to post. I guess what I should do is at some point become like one of those people who does the intro segments with intro music or interstitial music, and then I can sort of like promote the stream promote the stream while that's going before we end up like going live, so people can sit in the waiting room, if you will.
I think you should just like play incredibly depressing music.
Well,
and that's like your intro song, like just songs that make you kind of like wanna off yourself.
it's gotta be depressing, or it's gotta be like booming and intense, as if like there's this coming storm.
Just get like go through Two Steps from Hell's catalog of like epic operatic movie trailer music and just have all of that playing on a repeat.
Oh, that'd be amazing. Do that. Maybe put Ezra's head as like a 3D model and have it like spin around.
Yeah, and it should like vibe to the music in some way.
Like the vibing cat. Yeah, no.
Oh, all the ideas that we have. What? Tim's in the chat. Hello, Tim. I'm just going to send out a tweet before we get started to let people know that we went live. And then I shall begin. Discard that. Come on. Come on, internet. Function the way that I want you to. We are now live talking about vaccines. That's right, so that's what we're going to be talking about. All right, that went out. Just one message to the Discord.
It reminds me, I got my flu shot last week, or I managed to in Toronto.
Nice. My wife just got hers today as well, so that's good. Got a fever, and the only cure is a vaccine, is what Tim said in the chat. And I just have to say, if you have the vaccine now, Tim, or if you have a fever now, I don't think the vaccine is going to assist with your current fever. That's why you get the vaccine first, before you get the fever. Oh no! All right, so hello everyone. I am your host on this journey, Jody, and I'm going to introduce the chat so that you know what their voices sound like, although a lot of you probably know who everyone is by now. But let's hear from Ken. Say hello. Ken?
Did you not hear me? Did it not work?
No,
I said hello.
I did not pick up clearly. I think when you hit the higher register, it like...
My voice is a dog whistle.
Yeah. And Vienno.
Howdy.
And Elron.
Hello.
Sweet. So we're going to learn about vaccines today. I was debating doing this because like I don't know to what extent this will be dry or not, although I'm sure we're going to make it fun and exciting. But Drea did this long-ish interview with a dude, and we'll get to it in a second, obviously, when we start watching it. But we're going to watch the video today at 1.25 speed, just a little fast, because the guy she interviews is an old man who speaks very slowly. And I feel if we have to listen through all of that, it'll drive us just a little crazy. It'll be like, come on, old man, get to the point. So instead what we're going to do, we're going to listen to it just a slight bit of speed. And if that bothers you in the chat, please let me know. Otherwise, we're going to get to it. She ended up breaking Drea Humphreys, so we're going back to the source. Our first stream was on Drea Humphreys, who tried to connect Black Lives Matter to witchcraft. And today she's just interviewing a retired doctor who has some bad views about COVID generally. And she ended up splitting the video into two halves. So the first half, if you could see the title, it says, "Trash the PCR test. Microbiologist tells Drea Humphreys." So we're going to trash the PCR test. And so for those who don't know, the PCR test is basically the nasal swab test, where they stick the swab all the way up your nose. They rub your brain a little bit. They take it to a lab, and then they run the PCR test, which then tells you whether or not you have COVID, or it's supposed to indicate whether or not COVID DNA was found in you or not. And we'll get to how sensitive or reliable those are in a bit, but this is what the first video is, and then the second video is about the incoming vaccines, the COVID vaccines, and why he thinks that they're not going to work. And I clearly think he's full of shit. And so one thing, I open this up to anyone, if you're like someone who's very vaccine critical or cautious of the current vaccine, I've read the studies. I'm pretty hopeful about this new vaccine. I think the results look quite nice. But I will flag, actually this is something I should flag right up the front. I am by no means a doctor. In fact, I dropped out of my philosophy doctorate, but still wouldn't make me qualified necessarily to talk about this stuff. However, I want to say that doesn't, like, I'm pretty sure, and I'm going to be addressing something that an actual doctor is saying, and I would argue that I'm going to know more about him to a certain degree, but you know, don't take the medical advice from me. Go to medical experts for that. But I hope that I am going to mimic or at least divulge the same information that the experts would in this case. But don't make me your final source on that front. That being said, I will say that I have, and I mentioned this when I did a stream I did with Rico Rants recently on YouTube. You can go check that out. But I mentioned on a stream with him that I used to be involved with some groups online, particularly Facebook groups, that were also organized by immunologists and epidemiologists. And the goal of the Facebook group was to get people who were on the fence about vaccines to come on and talk about their concerns about vaccination. And part of my role and other people's roles in the groups were to get people the proper information and make them comfortable with the idea of vaccinating themselves and their children. And through that, we were able to get a lot of people to get vaccinated, which is good. And so even though I don't have a doctorate in this is stuff that I have researched over time. So, but again, don't rest it all on me. Go talk to an expert on this. I have a friend, so I'm going to read the chat. Tim was saying something here. I have a friend who explicitly mistrusts the impending vaccines simply because there was so much pressure to develop them quickly. He's assuming safety standards have not been observed. We'll get to some of that actually in the second video. But we'll any questions before we start? Or are you ready to learn about PCR tests from Drea Humphrey?
I've never been more ready.
I'm super ready. You can definitely trust everything I say because my username is Dr. Dickhead.
Yes, we got a doctor on the chat. Well, actually, we have another doctor too, but that's
correct. A more legitimate doctor than I is also on the chat.
Yes, but not in epidemiology as well, but or immunology, unless they have more degrees than I'm aware of. Yes, Vienna.
I think that the easiest way to get everybody on board with the vaccine would be to like put a little bit of morphine or something in there.
Oh, hell
just like
yeah.
Help people chill out, and it'd all be fine. Like
alcoholic
you'd be
vaccines.
good.
It kills things and gets you drunk. Yeah, no.
Also, you could put out more that there's that story. I mean, again, not a doctor, even though my name says Dr. Dickhead. But there was there was some study, don't know if it's been verified or proven wrong, that like the virus itself can cause long-term things like ED. And I swear to God, if you put that one out there, the vaccine will be on the shelf within a matter of weeks.
Yeah, I don't know how much. That was one of those stories where it went all over the internet, and then I was just like, do I need to look into this? I mean, I already was protecting myself, so I didn't feel the need myself to go out there and figure out if that one was true. But in line with what Vienna was saying, it's like it reminds me of like the sugar cubes that they used to give to children during the polio vaccines, so that it was a little bit more palatable for them to take rather than an injection, you know. But anyways, let's go. So Drea's gonna open up each video. She opens up a bit with some stuff. So let's hear what Drea has to say.
Cases, cases, cases. Now, I know you've heard that word far too many times before because our public health officers are always saying it. As a matter of fact, they seem fixated on using the word as their primary explanation as to why they must force you to isolate from your loved ones, ban you from attending religious gatherings, even if you were never going to get out of your vehicle to attend them. And let's not forget, they restrict you from opening your businesses too. No matter how dedicated you've been with implementing COVID-19 safety measures, your ability to open your business, to provide for your family, can be taken away from you just like that.
So I want to frame here because I think this is context for the interview to come. And it's not like specified or spelled out with the interviewee, the person who's interviewed. And the idea here is that the reason why cases are so important to like health officials is because they're using them as the metric for which they then start to initiate things like lockdowns or ticketing and fining and then shutting down of businesses and stuff like this. And of course, they're going through their litany of things. There was Adam Skelly and his stupid barbecue rebellion that he held, and there's all these churches that are getting fined for doing really terrible COVID protocols. And I will say, we've covered a lot of this on the podcast itself. So if you want to find out more about those, you could just check out the podcast version, Imperial News, on podbean.com. But here it's just setting it up where they really want to frame this thing that like the increase of cases means we're going to get more lockdowns and restrictions. And so what we're going to find out in the interview portion is they're going to really focus on what do these increase of cases actually mean to a certain extent.
But why do these same bureaucrats who love to talk about cases, refuse to inform the people about the fundamental flaws of the PCR test that is almost always used to tally those cases? Is it that hard to say these 4 simple words each time they mention the numbers? Cases don't equal infections. Like,
so This is I wanted to pause here as well because there's going to be some interesting moves made here, which is they get into a lot of weird semantic arguments throughout, but this is like trivially true in the sense that somebody, I mean the word infection here is a bit weird, but say you get a positive test. You could have a very low viral load and not be infectious. That is quite possible. Right? Now, you'll see, and we'll talk about it in a bit as we go forward, but like, even if that were the case, because like what we're going to find out about these tests is they don't test for like how much viral load you have. They just test for the presence of the DNA of the virus. And so in that case, the cases don't tell you whether or not somebody's going to be infectious or not. And that's not the point. And we'll get to that in a bit. But I just love this. It's Your Ontario Doctors. Apparently there's this group of doctors. Some of them are probably actual doctors who want to try to argue that, we shouldn't have lockdowns and all that fun stuff.
On a personal note too, like I tested negative 4 times for COVID and still very likely had it considering symptoms and then long-term health impacts as well. Like cases doesn't equal infections is true. Generally infections are a lot higher than cases.
Yeah. Well, I mean the thing is too, like, what is an infection? What counts as an infection? I mean, part of that is like we're not gathering that data, right? Because like part of it is you could have someone who is, and we'll get into the distinction of what pre-symptomatic and asymptomatic is, but you could have people who have the virus and it's actually doing damage to them, but they don't know that they have the virus, and they're spreading it to people even though they don't know they have the virus, or they have like a mild case. Maybe they have a cough, but they never went and got the test, or like, so a lot of these things are things that we're not actually testing for. So yes, cases don't equal infections, but cases might be a good indication of the prevalence of the virus within the public, right? And of course, it's underperforming because, as you said, Vienno, there's the possibility of false negatives. But we'll address how frequent false negatives are compared to false positives and all that fun stuff. I just love, like, I'm going to use a tweet to indicate I know what I'm talking about.
Like
I
concerned
just mean,
Ontario
like,
Oh,
doctors.
sorry.
one of those, like, the people that you hate are occasionally right, but don't mean it in the way that they
Yeah.
are correct. Like,
Yes. Well, I mean, again, because it's like this, it's trivially true, but like, I mean, there's going to be a lot of this where it's like trivially true, but I feel like that's I don't know what to call it. It's like, it's slimy, it's slippery. Like I'm always struggling, and I think maybe this is a good thing to flag at the front, and people can view this as we go along. I'm always wondering how much of this is like the people know that what they're saying is wrong and they're doing it intentionally, and how much of it is just they bought the narratives in a certain way. And some stuff like this, it's like it feels so slippery. Like you're purposefully using words in a specific way to convey an idea, knowing that the meaning is wishy-washy, but it sounds it sounds kind of like true because it is true, but it's not making the point you want it to make. And yeah, so there's going to be a lot of that, I think, but we'll get into it as we go along.
Has no problem tweeting. Or why not reevaluate the PCR
this.
test after judges scrutinized it in court and determined that the PCR test is unable to be determined beyond a reasonable doubt that a positive result corresponds, in fact, to the infection of a person by the SARS-CoV-2 virus, as reported here by Portugal News.
Elron, I wanted to ask you because you do research. How many scientists refer to judicial cases to determine whether their science is accurate?
Yeah, man, I was about to be really concerned. You're about to ask me some questions about PCR and be like, Mo's in the chat. You might ask him. But yeah, no, that is right up my area of expertise. I would say a flat fucking 0 there.
I don't even understand like why they think that would work. And I remember like because there was a similar case in Italy, I want to say back, oh man, this must have been like 2015, maybe a bit earlier than that, where a court ruled that vaccine does in fact cause autism, or vaccines do cause autism according to the court ruling. And it's like there's no scientific evidence to back that up. But this court said it, and of course, because this court said it, all the anti-vaccine people like went wild of just like, see, look at the proof. This court ruled in our favor. And it's like, yeah, but a court case is not science. And that is like the judge in this case was not an epidemiologist. Now, I found it very hard to find information about this, considering most of the information is coming from Portugal news sources. But I think there was an article that was like a week old from like today, indicating that the judges are being reprimanded for this decision. So yeah, so even internally, there's things in Portugal where they're mad at this decision. I think this decision also emanated from the fact that there was a German national who tested positive for coronavirus, and because of that, they forced them to quarantine rather than going back to their home country, and they complained about it, and that's what the court case was about. And I guess the judge ruled that, like, because it's possible that there could have been a false positive, that therefore we rule that the tests don't work or something. But here's the thing, is like the false positive rates are so slim, and we'll get to that in a bit, but it's like the whole case is just kind of silly. And for them to rule that way and now be used by all these COVID deniers everywhere is kind of annoying.
Now tell me, what do you think? What would be the point of our top political doctors continuously failing to inform the people of something so crucial to their COVID-19 restrictions? Maybe the British Medical Journal is correct in saying that science is being suppressed for political and financial gain, but whose? Certainly not the people whose businesses are going bankrupt by the new normal that was forced upon you and I.
So This one was like really great. So you got a quote there, and I'll back it up so we can see. It's what do we got here? It's a so we notice it's in the British Medical Journal. Nice, a legit source, so that's good. Now it does say that it's an editorial, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's what they're citing here is bad. But then it says, "Science is being suppressed for political and financial gain." That is like the sentence they focus on, and I was just like, yeah, that could be true. I'm not like, of course it can, but what's the context? And it's clear like Dre is trying to make it out to seem like the context is they're lying to us about COVID. So I went and looked up the article. I'm going to throw it on the screen here. And I will say, I think the person who wrote the editorial, Kamran Abbasi, is actually the editor of the, or the executive editor of the BMJ. So, cool. Now, if you go down, you could tell, like, a lot of this has to do with something that I think Rebel explicitly would not be on the same page with. So I'll read this paragraph where it's like, "A Public Health England report on COVID-19 and inequalities. The report's publication was delayed by England's Department of Health. A section on ethnic minorities was initially withheld and then, following a public outcry, was published as part of a follow-up report. Authors from Public Health England were instructed not to talk to the media. Third, on October 15th, the editor of The Lancet complained that an author of a research paper, a UK government scientist, was blocked by the government from speaking to the media because of a difficult political landscape." So what they're talking about is reporting on how the COVID virus affects different ethnic groups differently in the UK system. Which is interesting in that this isn't saying that COVID's not real. It's saying that the government is doing things to suppress various knowledge points that they either don't care about or don't want out there. Another one had to do with the purchasing of an antibody test and whether or not the antibody test was as accurate as promoted by the government. And so again, all of these...
So what you're saying here is that the UK government are the ones suppressing science, not in the sense that things aren't as bad as they seem. They're actually much fucking worse.
Yeah, I mean it's being suppressed in the opposite direction, right? Because like they're framing it in terms of we're being lied to from public officials that this COVID thing is harmful and we need to lock down. That is what Drea is trying to convey to us. When really what's being suppressed is that, the government is buying tests that don't work because they got a financial kickback from like a buddy of theirs internal to the government. Like standard government corruption bullshit that has little to do with like actual science.
Drea, are you lying to us again? Are you lying? I know you watch these streams, Drea. We know you do. Are you lying to us?
Like all shit. But then it's like, I love the fact that it had to do with the fact that the government was covering up the differences of COVID as an impact to ethnic minorities. Which again, I mean, like, doesn't Ezra say there's no systemic racism? And we don't need Black Lives Matter either. We already heard Drea say that. But yes.
Is it just for my own, just so I'm following it properly, is it sort of like in the same sort of sense where early on, like obviously science changes and our response and the things that they advise us that we need to do changes as they learn more about the virus itself? How early on they said masks aren't necessarily something we needed people to wear, and then they were like, oh, actually we do need you to wear them, or at least they should be used to help stop the spread. And part of that was because they were worried that like they kind of figured that masks would probably be a good thing, but they didn't want to like go through like everyone to rapid buy up all the masks that were needed by healthcare workers and that sort of stuff.
So this is slightly different. This has more to do, because I remember there was a case in the United States where now I might get the particulars here wrong because I'm just going off the top of my head, but it had something to do with Jared Kushner knowing someone who was producing some sort of German test, and testing in America got delayed because they were relying on like Kushner's buddy who was producing these tests, and therefore like the enrollment of and then it turns out that those tests were defective anyways, and like they wasted money. There was a whole like, I remember there's being some sort of issue. And so that what that is like government corruption, and it has nothing to do with the science itself. It is more to do with like the public's being informed that we need testing, and the government's going like, where can I get a kick? Where can I help out my buddy by like buying his tests as opposed to these tests over here, right? That's where like the corruption element come into it. So it's like, I mean, we had some of that with the masks, which is like, what companies do you go to produce the masks, or like should we be buying them over here? And then people bought a bunch of masks that turned out to be defective, and like, right, there's this like wheeling and dealing shit that is sort of like, it's related to the science, but it itself is not indicative of the science itself being like bad. It's just that like politicians are going to see an opportunity to make money. Some politicians are going to see an opportunity to make money and value that over the actual safety of the public, which I think is like the real matter being addressed in that British Medical Journal editorial. And it was so there, you know, it's a criticism of the Boris Johnson administration doing corrupt shit, which is like, no shit. Of course, the Boris Johnson administration's corrupt. Does not surprise me in the least. At least I don't know about any of you. Are any of you surprised that conservatives are doing corrupt shit when they're in power?
Shocked Pikachu.
Yeah.
Won't be suppressing a discussion about the flaws on the PCR test and the problem with the so-called COVID-19 cases. After all, here at Rebel News,
So-called
we bring you
cases.
the other side of the story. And since I'm not a doctor and I'm not a scientist, I sat down to interview Dr. Sukhcharit Bhakti, who, among other credible achievements, was the former chair of medical microbiology at Gießen University, the former postdoctoral researcher at the Max Planck Institute in Immunobiology, and the co-author of the book Coronavirus, False Alarm. Now, he sat with me to give his opinion on the PCR tests and why they need to be trashed. Take a look.
I studied medicine, I have an
Now,
MD.
I'm going to let
Then
this
I
run
went
for a bit
into
here because it's just credentials.
microbiology and infectious diseases, and became chair of medical microbiology and hygiene at the University of Mainz.
Keep going.
So I chaired this institute for 22 years until my retirement 8 years ago. I taught the subject of infectious diseases, microbiology, virology for 30 years, and have been active in all fields, many
Yep.
fields, including immunology, bacteriology, virology, parasitology. That's what I've been doing, and also seen patients. So I've also been taking care of patients.
Trey is looking how I'm
In
feeling.
fact, all my life has been spent in this field.
Kind of
So
like blinking, trying to not really being able to.
Yeah, my biggest takeaway from this is that Dre needs an editor, or needs to understand, like, you know, you give the credentials before you get into the piece, the interview, and then you continue with like showing like the parts that you want to show. But you know, who am I to say? Just being someone who works in TV, you know.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. She already gave the credential bumper at the beginning there and like promoted
Yeah,
the book.
that's what I'm saying.
But like part of this is you could tell like there's a sense I have in which this person really wants you to make sure that he knows what he's talking about. He's been in this department. He's been in that department. He's seen patients. He's taught at the university level. He's been a part of this institution. He's been a part of that institution. And I've written a book. So you got to trust me. And I will say, there's often this like conflation with, or this argument that like we can't trust Big Pharma because Big Pharma is just in it for the money and all this stuff. And I want to say that like, yes, there's definitely issues with money and drug companies, and I'm not going to dispute any of that. But what that always sort of like belies is this idea that these people who are like so-called fighting the medical, like they're the ones fighting the medical establishment and fighting Big Pharma, that somehow they're just in it for like the love of truth and they're fighting for that. But it's like they always have something to sell. And there's a sense in which it's like there's different monetary incentives for all these things. Like, of course, there doesn't seem to be a lot of monetary incentives for a large institution to, like, sully their name by, like, backing false theories and stuff like this in terms of, like, some of these communities. But, like, these communities have these individuals who are selling you products going, like, I'm going to put everything that I have on the line just so I can make money off my book. That, the Corona false alarm?
Yeah.
And I will say, so it's with another author here, Karina Reese, which is Bakadi's wife as well. So, and I will say, I found a copy of it. I read some of it, and it was pretty atrocious. I mean, it had like short sentence of like, "What is this COVID hysteria?" with an exclamation mark, which. You know, it's all about the facts and logic. So you gotta talk about the COVID hysteria.
I'm constantly amazed by like how easy it seems to be for some people to write a book and get it published. I always thought there was like more to it, but
Yeah.
no, just a little exclamation point. You're good to go.
Well, they threw it on Amazon as well, so I think it is carried by some sort of book publisher, but I think it's a book publisher that covers like a lot of pseudoscience crap. The other thing too is, I mean, there was just subtle things where at least compared to like other pseudoscience texts, he does cite like legitimate research. It's just it's like he adds flair to them that wasn't in the original research, because I remember there was one passage where he was talking about the potential of mRNA vaccines, which we'll get to in Drea's next video. The potential of mRNA vaccines to cause like autoimmune issues. And he has like a citation there, so I went and dug up the article, and the article was basically like mRNA vaccines are pretty much safe. And then it's like there's a concern about autoimmune deficiency, but we need like more research or something like this, right? But it's like they're predominantly safe. So then it's like he takes away from that was like, holy shit, they could cause like autoimmune stuff. And I think he said at one point like it was simply terrifying. Like the autoimmune stuff could be simply terrifying. And you got that from like, we need more research in this area to it could be simply terrifying. It's like maybe the article is not adding the emphasis that you're adding there, Bacardi. But and yes, so we got a whole bunch of credentials, and you'll find that I'm going to argue that his credentials are worse shit with what he's peddling right now. But let's let's see what his first hit is with Drea's first question here.
When we look at cases, though, one of the things that your book did explain, and I'm hoping you can touch on that today, is when we didn't know a whole bunch about this virus, when it was new to everybody, what were some of the initial problems with how cases were reported?
Good. Now, the first misunderstanding that I want to get out of the way is that this virus is not new. It was claimed to be a new virus because it's a new variant. You know, when a child is born, that child is a new human, but he's still a human. So this coronavirus had its predecessors, all right, its parents or whatever, and it is a newborn virus because it's changed a bit. But about 10 different coronaviruses, the family is called corona. And this is a new member of the coronavirus, all right? So
What the fuck?
All right. Well, you know, he's absolutely right. In fairness, you know, Adolf was a new member of the Hitler family. So
Well, this is again, it gets to the point of like this is trivially true, but then also stupid, because it's like you're right. It's in the coronavirus family, so it's like, hi, famous horse. You've entered a weird chat. You could tell. So it's like you could tell like the coronavirus. It's in the same family as these. So COVID-19 is in the same family as these other coronaviruses. Cool, on the same page there, bud. But then it's like he's saying so it's a new variant, but it's not a new virus. But like, what's the difference between a variant and a new virus and a new variant? Like, for all intents and purposes, in colloquial usage, it's a new virus because it doesn't affect us the way the other coronavirus affect us. So like for us, it's new. It wasn't here yesterday. It's here today. Even though like whether it's the brother of a coronavirus or like a second cousin twice removed, does it really matter to the everyday person? Like it's a new virus, you know. Why does this matter? This is a misconception that he needs to somehow, I don't know, to like flex his bona fides or something. So pointless.
This is something that everyone has to understand, that the first statement that was made way back in January, that this is a new virus, is not really true. And immunology has now come to tell us that what I'm saying is true because it has been discovered. It was discovered in July by several groups of immunologists and molecular virologists in the world that our lymphocytes, which are the cell-specific trained in combat against viruses, that our lymphocytes recognize the new virus because they've been trained in combat with the old coronaviruses of last year and the year before, all right?
So this again is like trivially true, but also besides the point. Like I feel like again, and this is someone who's supposed to be a doctor who has studied immunology, and what he's arguing is that somehow like so our lymphocytes are antibodies, the immune system cells that are involved in immunity, that somehow they have like a taste. They have a taste of coronavirus already. And the thing is, you can already think of like why this doesn't make sense in the context of how this virus is going to affect you, for the same reason that like you can get the flu multiple times throughout your whole life, you know? And eventually the flu might kill you. It might not have killed you the first time, but it can kill you the second time. And even though your cells had a taste, you had a taste of that early flu virus, this new flu virus over here that you have can fucking kill you. Right? Like,
Don't you know that everybody who's died of SARS or COVID or MERS didn't have a cold before?
Yeah. That's like,
Otherwise, they would have been immune.
but so my guess is, and so he doesn't spell out a lot of these things. Like I kind of have to piece it together with like all the bullshit he's going to be saying. But I get the feeling from him that he would argue, and I picked this up from his book too, he would argue that it's not the virus that kills you. It's the fact that like you're obese or there's some other like comorbidity that's actually killing you. And so it has nothing to do with our immune system, which already had the taste for this coronavirus. We're already sort of like immune to it, apparently. It's the fact that you have these comorbidities that is doing it. That is my guess of what he's trying to say, but of course he's not really spelling it out here. But otherwise, it's like, why is this relevant at the end of the day? Like, why say this, right? Other than to downplay this friggin' virus. So the next part, like, it's going to be a bit long, but we're gonna get through it. So here we go.
Now, the thing about this new coronavirus was the disaster that there was a PCR test developed in order to identify the new member of this family. All right, and this PCR test allegedly could say that this virus was in your body. All right. Now, this PCR test, first of all, is extremely dangerous because I liken this to an alcohol test. All right, you get into a police control, you blow into this pipe, and in Germany, if you have 0.6 per mil of alcohol, then your license is gone and you're not allowed to drive the car. Mm-hmm. If the test goes up to 0.06 or 0.0006, of course, you're not drunk and you're allowed to drive on. This PCR test, however, if it's not standardized, what it does is it's so sensitive that it will tell you, yes, you have 0.00006, and if this was an alcohol test, it would be ridiculous to take your license away. But since this PCR is just graded yes, no, positive, negative. Even that test that is virtually irrelevant to anything is graded positive. Now, the second.
So, did any of you follow that?
PCR is dangerous. We cannot let this in the hands of scientists or oh wait, never mind. No, go ahead.
Well, the thing is, like, I had to pause there too when he says dangerous, because, like, again, he doesn't fully spell out the analogy that he's making, but this is what I can glean from what he's trying to say. It's dangerous because, in the case of, like, drunk driving, for example, there's some sort of threshold, right? Which is like, if you blow under a certain amount of alcohol content, you can drive, you're fine. If you blow over, you're drunk, it's illegal to get in your car, we're going to ticket you. And what he's saying is that the PCR test isn't that, it's sensitive in that it can pick up somebody who might have a very low viral load. And his argument is if you have an extremely low viral load, you're not infectious. So it's like, you don't need to be locked up in your house if you have a low viral load. You're fine, right? But he's like, because you only get a yes or a no response from a PCR test, it doesn't tell you how much viral load you have. We're like quarantining people that don't need to be quarantined based on a positive test result. That's what he's trying to make. And that's dangerous because, oh my God, the civil liberties of people that we're locking up because they're getting positive tests when they're not infectious. My guess is that is his warped analogy that he's trying to make here. And I don't know about you, but like, again, it gets back to like, why are we doing the test? I mean, like, of course, like, we can't determine viral loads, but we can determine you have it. And the reason why even the viral load data would not be helpful is for this specific reason. Say you just got infected. And so you just had a little bit of virus come up and it's in your respiratory tract. And that's why when we do the swabby swab and we take it to the lab determines that you're positive. You have a low viral load, though, at this point, when you got the positive test. However, does that mean that in a couple days, you won't be in the ICU with a huge viral load? No. Right? Because this thing is a virus. It reproduces. So if it just entered your system, it might, like, have to build up and replicate and do all the fun stuff that viruses do. And so if it hasn't reached that level yet, that's like, yeah, okay, but then, like, the whole point of doing the test is to make sure it's like, okay, you have the virus, we don't know where you are in terms of being infectious, so just stay the fuck home. So again, it's like this weird thing where it's like, he should know this, but he's like talking to like a side issue as if we can do all these things with it. Or we should be getting this information from a PCR test, and because we're not getting that information, it's useless or it's harmful, when it's like, that's not why we're doing the testing in the first place. Does that make sense? Did I make sense there?
It makes perfect sense. I'm still stuck on this whole analogy to like the legal limit thing, like driving with a BAC above like 0.08, because it's like, if you're like under 21 in the last states in the US, you can't have a BAC of anything. That needs to be straight zero, or else it's off to jail. So again, I just don't think like these analogies, they're nice scare analogies, don't get me wrong. I appreciate what he's trying to do, but I don't think they work.
Well, I think he's referring to the German context. I think in Canada, you're still allowed a certain amount, unless you're underage or something, but I don't know. But we're gonna get some more weird arguments, I think, on this one. Yeah. Here we go, round 2. So that was his first terrifying thing about this, and now we're going to get the second.
Second tragic thing is that right from the beginning, the WHO said that anyone with a positive PCR test is to enter the register as a COVID-19 case.
Right.
Now, COVID-19 is the name given to the severe illness caused by this new coronavirus. Although the illness was not new at all, it received a name that made it new. And this was the beginning of the big catastrophe, because according to the definition of the WHO. A pandemic is the worldwide spread of a new disease. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Do you get it now?
I'm on board. I'm following. See, there was this new disease. So if I'm following, he said there's a new disease, and they called it a new disease, but that wasn't okay.
No, it's
because
not. It's not a new disease. That's what he's
Okay.
arguing.
Oh,
Because-
but he said it was like it was like the new son of the family. It was coronavirus, second of his name, right?
So here's his argument. You want to hear how like fucked up this argument is? So he's arguing that
Not really.
he's arguing that so like the disease is like is downstream from like having the virus, right? So like the disease would be something like pneumonia or the cough or whatnot. And he's saying that that's the exact same disease as like your standard cold or flu is. So it's not a new disease. It might be a new variant, but it's not a new disease. And so therefore I guess the the World
my
Health
God.
Organization had to come up with some conspiracy theory to actually classify it as a new disease, or else they couldn't call it a pandemic, and therefore no lockdowns.
Is this the new AIDS denialism? Is this the exact same thing? It feels like the exact same goddamn thing.
It's fucking wonderful is what it is. I couldn't when
That
he was
man wasn't killed by a new weapon. Traveling projectiles have existed for thousands of years.
You know what I mean? Like what? I don't even think that is the appropriate way to think of like a disease, because people refer to COVID-19 as a new disease. And I think when most people think of a disease, they associate it with the viral cause. So the reason why COVID-19 is a different disease is because it's, even though it might manifest in similar ways to other viruses, it's it's caused by a new thing. But not only that, like COVID-19 does do new things that other viruses aren't doing to us. So it is a new disease. This you know, like it's manifesting itself in different ways, like the fact of like some coronaviruses create like wet coughs. COVID is more of a dry cough. COVID also makes you lose your sense of smell. Like there's other ways in which it like manifests itself different than other viruses.
You know, if you think about it, there's never been a pandemic before.
Yeah.
Because all diseases have always been around in some manner.
Yeah.
Evolution and such, you know? They've always been around.
But what I love about this though is like even if he was right, what like whether the WHO calls it a pandemic or not doesn't fucking matter. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, he's gonna deny everything else about COVID or whatever because all these people do because they're assholes. But like, you know, even if he was right, and in a world where COVID is still doing what it is doing currently, it like lots of death, pretty infectious, all that fun stuff. Like the world would still care about it even if it wasn't a pandemic by his technical semantic definition of what a pandemic means. Right? It's not like everyone would go, whoa, whoa, whoa. It's not a pandemic, so let's just, well, I mean, we're already letting people die and we know it's a pandemic, so all of this is just fucking stupid. I love that argument though. That is beautiful. Top 10 best arguments ever.
Suddenly, anyone who carried bits and pieces of this virus in them, that was totally irrelevant. They weren't sick, they were not even infected. They just had a test done on them that was so sensitive that it would light up. And it also lights up, by the way, if you have an old coronavirus, the danger of its lighting up is also given. So now that it's autumn and winter, and all the other coronaviruses around, the flu viruses around, it also cross-reacts with this PCR. The cases go up and up and up, without anyone having to be infected with the new virus at all. So that's the end of that. In fact, this PCR test has to be stopped. It's got to be trashed. Otherwise, we'll never get out of this mess.
So that's that. That's that. Didn't you know? The PCR test, it just picks up all kinds of other viruses, you know. The thing that I thought was so silly about this, because I know that it's just like immediately false. The PCR test is perfectly capable of distinguishing previous coronaviruses from the current COVID-19 virus. But it's also, he makes this case that this test is so super sensitive. It's so sensitive that it can find just trace amounts of the DNA in you, but it's just incapable of distinguishing other viruses from each other. It's like, so what is this thing? Is it sensitive or it isn't sensitive? Like, make up your goddamn mind.
It's sensitive, but it's not specific.
Yeah, well, I mean, he doesn't make that claim. He just talks about sensitivity. I mean, like, I found articles for this that I could show you. I guess I'll just move it into the front so you can look it up yourself, which sort of goes over. So this is the laboratory diagnosis of coronavirus disease, frequently asked questions in clinical infectious diseases. And you can go down, and it just lists a whole bunch of tests, but then it asks a whole bunch of questions. Including, I mean, it even tells you, this is the thing, like, we get a lot of this whole, actually, I'll get to that in a second. So I'll have to keep this test open, because I think he's going to address it, and I'll use this study to point out why he's wrong here. But it basically shows you here, it'll say things like how accurate, what sample types are suitable for testing, and if you read through this document, you'll find that, like, it is perfectly capable. They even link back to other sources showing that, like, they had studies showing that, like, the test is pretty much like 90% accurate at distinguishing COVID-19 from other coronaviruses. So it's like the false positive rate for these PCR tests is almost 0%. It's like 99.99999. And most of the false positives that you could do or could get are usually the result of human error, which is like they either like fucked up in using the swab. Oh, I mean, that's the other thing. So, like, you could get a false positive just because they screwed up something on the swab, you know? But again, it's like, it's human error. It's not the result of the test itself, which is, like, highly accurate. It doesn't mean that it won't give you false negatives. So that's the other thing is it's sensitive, and it can, like, find, like, small pieces of the DNA within you. But it's not, like, perfectly sensitive, in that there could be cases where you have so low amount of the DNA that the test is not sensitive enough to pick it up. That is quite possible. So you could have been someone who had the infection, like Vienno quite possibly did, and for whatever reason the test did not pick it up, because when the test was taken, most of the virus had been shed and very little of the DNA remained, or something like that. That is quite possible with these tests. Which I believe, I think Vienno, your doctor, has said as much, is quite possible with you as well. So.
Yeah. No, I think the nurses just like didn't scrape my brain hard enough.
Yeah. Also quite possible. But again, like that's human error as well. Like that
Yeah.
does play into false negatives as well. But yes, I just love it. Like, that one is the huge anti-COVID line is the idea that somehow these tests are just picking up false positives by thinking that they're all other viruses or other shit. And none of that is supported by the evidence, doctor. I'm sorry.
Finally, we've seen Portugal come forward, and they had a ruling there that, you know, like you're saying, this test, it's madness. It's not
I would have
something that is
loved
reliable,
for him
and
to address
these
this
measures
Portugal
shouldn't be
thing.
taking place for them. So
But
I'm
she
hoping to
asks
see
another
more of
question
that.
after
But
this.
it must be
So
just
we don't get to hear
mind-boggling
his
for you to
point.
have all of this knowledge and see what's happening. I mean, if it's mind-boggling for me, I'm not a medical professional like that. But can you explain how the way they're testing for COVID differs from how we normally test for the influenza? Is the influenza test also as unreliable, or what are the main differences there?
No, the influenza test is okay. right? It's okay. But you don't go around testing people without symptoms for influenza. This is what you must do. You must test those people who are ill. That's what the test can be used for, to confirm the diagnosis that you as a doctor have the suspicion of. A lab test must never be used to diagnose a disease. It must always be used as an adjunct to the diagnosis. What is happening now is that the doctors have forgotten all they learned in medicine. A doctor has the duty to look at the patient, examine him, think about what he might have or what he might not have, and then go and try to find the diagnosis with the help of the modern lab tests. Mm-hmm. So that's all there is to say. Now,
again, like, this is... He's trying to argue that when doctors want to or find out whether or not you're actually infected with something, what they'll do is they'll go, let me hear what your symptoms are. And now that you've told me your symptoms, I'm going to run a test. And if the tests indicate or match what your symptoms are, therefore you have the disease. And he's saying that, like, the problem is we're, like, giving out all these false positives and telling people they have the disease when really they're not sick, or they're not going to get sick. And, like, we're using this testing correctly is, like, what he's arguing. But, like, the reason why we're testing everyone is not to diagnose whether or not they're ill or not. We're testing whether or not they could spread the virus to other people. Like, that's the reason why we're testing people. Because, like, the reason... So, for example, my grandma wanted to see my grandpa, and my grandpa is suffering from dementia and other stuff and is in a long-term care home. And so they made her take a test before she could go and see him, such that they didn't want her to bring in the COVID virus into the long-term care home. That's not because they wanted to diagnose whether or not my grandma was suffering from COVID-19. They wanted to make sure she wasn't going to give it to grandpa and kill all the old people in the long-term care home. And here's the thing.
I think
she tested positive once, didn't show any symptoms, but clearly had the virus in her. So she didn't have the disease, according to Mr. Doctor here. Go for
I
it,
think
Vienna.
the like best analogy for it is like STI tests, where you are taking it as an explicitly preventative measure because not all people show symptoms, and because you're not trying to give people like gonorrhea or whatever.
That is a perfect
it's-
analogy that I didn't even think of. But yes. Because you're not getting, like, it's not like we're diagnosing you with something in the moment, because you might not be exhibiting the disease at that moment. But it's the fact that, like, you could have the virus and therefore could give your partner the infection. Because just because you're not exhibiting the signs of gonorrhea at that moment doesn't mean that you can't transmit it, especially if you're, like, in a pre-symptomatic phase or something like that.
Yeah, and like that way, if you come back positive with something, sometimes you would be able to take antibiotics or whatever and not ever exhibit symptoms, or, would have the opportunity to be like, okay, I'm going to be real sick soon. I need to like figure shit out, or like at least have awareness and are able to, communicate that you are in some way at risk of spreading an illness.
Which is what, like, blows my mind about this doctor, this supposed doctor who's been teaching immunology and shit like this his whole life, doesn't understand the basics of preventative medicine. And he apparently even said he had patients. He had patients where he was like their physician, I guess, in some capacity. And he doesn't understand the basics of preventative medicine.
Jody, what you're misunderstanding is he meant that he had no patience to learn the basics of preventative medicine.
I was so expecting you to actually say something that wasn't a joke. I was like, Ken got me again.
I'd been silent for too long. I had to interject.
That was good though. I had mentioned to Ken at one point that when I went back and listened to some things, like, because sometimes I'm busy on making sure that I'm playing the clip correctly and other stuff, that I miss his one-liners. So there you go. Now it was... And I'm always like, they're good, but sometimes I miss them in the moment.
That's what I'm here for.
Did not miss this one.
you also don't go around testing anyone who comes to the ICU for influenza or the flu if he's come to the ICU because he has a heart attack or because he had a car accident. But that's what's being done now.
It is.
In all Europe, the moment you enter the ICU, the one test that is performed is the test for this damn virus. If you would do the test for other viruses, you'd find them too. But it doesn't mean that you're ill because of the virus, okay?
We don't need to go on that point. It's the same point. Like, even if you were to test everyone for flu, like, yeah, you're going to find people who test positive for flu but aren't exhibiting any symptoms of flu. And that doesn't mean, I mean, the reason why we're not doing testing like that for flu, and maybe we should, but like the reason why we're not doing that is because flu is less severe than the COVID virus.
Also, so far as I know, flu doesn't affect heart function for his one example there. Like,
Well, I mean, he's going to
COVID
argue.
fucks up so much of your body
And
that, like, literally anything could at some point
yeah.
be related to a symptom of having COVID. Like,
No, I was
it gives
even
you stroke,
surprised.
for fuck's sake. Like,
Yeah, I was even surprised that like low levels of the virus, even people who don't exhibit any symptoms, suffer like scarring in their lungs and stuff like that for what the virus is doing. But it is what it is. I mean, like, and there's been people with heart complications and stuff like that. And his argument there, and like he's not going to go into it here, but is that clearly it's not the virus doing these things. These people were already like prone to have heart attacks and other crap like that, anyways. You know, typical denial shit. But
And so the numbers just explode. What we're seeing in Germany is something, and Austria, by the way, is something very remarkable. You know, the number of ICU beds that are occupied remains the same all through the weeks.
Oh.
But the number of COVID-19 patients are going up and up and up and up and up. How can that be? They are replacing the others because the others happen to have a positive PCR test. I mean, this is madness.
Absolutely.
go for it, Elron.
No, sorry, that was me. I was just like, is she
Okay.
getting a test for the sake of this piece?
No, that kind of did look like Drea. Actually, you're right. No, but
The
I
hair's
love how
the hair.
it's an oral swab too.
How
It's not
can
even
that be? They
it's
are
not even a nose swab. But I love their stupid fucking stock footage that they splice in. There's like some really silly ones in the next video that we're going to get to in a second here. But I did want to say he mentioned there that, what was it? The ICU bed occupation level has remained flat while cases have gone up. And here's the thing is I don't know when they actually filmed the interview. It's quite possible that this was back in October or November. But what we know, that like cases will start to rise first before like people start requiring hospitalization. There's usually like that 2-week buffer time that they talk about. And so this was taken from early November anyways, and it says German COVID cases in ICU hit record as pandemic intensifies. So I could find no information whatsoever that whatever this guy is saying is true. It seems to me that German ICUs are filling up as the cases are increasing. What are you going to do? You can look that up on your own. I'm not going to read it. Point being is, this guy is just pulling shit out of his ass, and I felt like I needed to correct it. Like, that's the thing. It's like, it's so easy for them to just go on these things and say bullshit. Now I'm going to end here for this video. And the reason why I'm going to end here, even though you might see down here that there's 5 or 6 minutes left to go, or a couple minutes left to go, is all because at the end of this video, he's going to promote his book, and then he's going to tell everyone that the problem is... Here, one second.
Replacing the other.
The problem is if they go to the website to go... Amazon apparently took his book down and then uploaded another book with the exact same title but different authors that look like they stole his work. And so he tells people to buy the real one, not the fake one. And frankly, we don't need to listen to that. That's a bunch of bullshit. So in the chat, I'm going to reshare the new one. And now we're on to the video. About vaccines. Hooray! Everyone's favorite topic.
Woo!
Woohoo.
And I'm going to skip ahead a bunch because
If you enjoy
they, oh, that's at the end here. I'm going to skip ahead a bunch because she basically just like recaps the previous video. And frankly, we've heard enough about the previous video already. So I'm sure you could all hear it. That's fine. We're good.
Today,
go.
we're talking about another important topic regarding COVID-19 with Dr. Bhakti, and that's regarding the COVID-19 vaccinations. Now, it's no secret that the COVID-19 vaccines have been rushed, and that the global pressure to take it despite that is like nothing we've ever seen before. And not only that, information about the vaccine that doesn't align with the whole you need to take this before we give you back any sense of normalcy narrative is starting to be suppressed. Take some
Yeah. I had to pause there just because of like how convoluted what she's saying there is. Like, she's making it sound like that government officials are being like, take the vaccine or else no more society. And like part of me is like, in her mind, that's a threat. But like, exactly, it's like, well, yeah, because if we don't get vaccinated, we could all die.
That's the way it goes. We're gonna die if you don't get vaccinated. You stupid.
But she makes it sound so much sinister that it's like, we could say the same thing like, take these antibiotics or else, or else you'll die.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you got it. You got it.
They're encroaching on our freedom. So we're now going to get a new figure before we get back to Bacardi. And so I'm going to play the whole clip of this new individual, and then we're going to have a little bit of fun. So here we go.
Scientist Dr. James Lyons Wheeler, for example, Wheeler recently condemned the politicization of Americans' health regarding COVID-19 measures. He also then went on to say that his concerns regarding the vaccine, which are based on his peer-reviewed research, have been ignored. Here is just one of his concerns that he feels is falling on deaf ears.
We now have results from front-runner vaccines from these hybrid trials where they skipped over the animals trials. FDA, in it absolutely ignoring safety margin in a stunning decision, decided to allow Moderna and other vaccine manufacturers to skip the most important step in vaccine safety for coronavirus, which is the animal trials, to see if there's pathogenic priming, to see if this particular vaccine or that particular vaccine might cause serious problems for pathogenic priming.
But we
Pathogenic priming.
Sorry, what was up with what's the word? Captions?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that the talk was in some, like, the Netherlands or something like that. I can't remember. It was some or it was like being broadcast to there or something. There was like special captions they had on other like crap.
Why did they use that footage?
Yeah, I don't know. They're rebel, whatever. I think that's the only footage they could find.
The only ones that they could get permission to use.
But so this guy, oh man, I loved when I was figuring out who this guy is. So he, again, it's a weird thing because there's this great blog called Science-Based Medicine that I've been following for a long time. And David Gorski is one of the physicians who writes for this blog. And he has covered a bunch of Lion Wheeler shit for a while and points out that, like, in a previous life, like, there's no reason to doubt the research and stuff that he did while working for universities. And most of it had to do with, like, machine learning algorithms and stuff like this in terms of, like, detecting disease prevalence in, like, cancer patients and various things. I don't know. I was looking briefly at his bio. And there's no reason to think that, like, he wasn't a legit scientist at that point. Until around 2016-ish, when he started publicizing issues regarding vaccines causing autism and stuff like this. And then it's just been downhill from there, including now with his chat about this stuff. But the interesting thing, so he's now no longer at universities, but he created his own group. It's the most amazing thing ever. So it's called the Institute for Pure and Applied Knowledge. IPAC.
Sorry, the Institute for what? Sorry?
For Pure and Applied Knowledge. Or IPAC. You know, haven't you heard of IPAC? And they've got this great, it's an organization, it's a not-for-profit, and they've got, like, my favorite is you can go to merch, And there's these great logos you can get for your, like, decals for your car. And it's like, the Institute for Pure and Applied Knowledge, reducing human pain and suffering through knowledge.
Sounds like I pack a lot of bullshit into everything I say.
God damn it. I did. Oh, holy shit. And it's so cheesy, but like he does his own research now. This is primarily what he does. And it's all vaccine related, and it's just a real cranky site. This guy just has gone all in on his own shit. And I found this great CBC article while we're digging deep on it, because apparently this guy was caught on a hidden camera while talking to a CBC reporter. And let me see if I'll control F it so I can find it quick. Oh, it's not doing it. Here we go. Yes, James, let me find you. Let's see if it's okay. When asked about Big Tree speaking fees, his man the wrong James. Okay, other anti-vax figure. Oh yeah, so finding workarounds. So part of it is like whether or not these people get paid, because there's like issues in terms of like getting these paid speaking fees. But it goes. Other anti-vax figures, such as James Lyons Wheeler, find workarounds. Since 2015, Lyons Wheeler has run a self-described progressive science group. He told Marketplace's undercover journalists that he's not for or against vaccines. "I'm a not-for-profit. I'm just educating," he said at the VIP event. Yet in speeches, he touts the false claim that vaccines can and do cause autism, and holds events at which he vows to bring the science. Earlier this month, he held an event in Los Angeles with another high-profile activist, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., where they charged $40 to $55 US per ticket. When asked how much it would cost to bring him to Canada to speak, Lyons Wheeler told the undercover Marketplace team that he didn't charge because it would make him an international lobbyist. "So, what would I rather do is, I do a science day the day before," he said. "I'd run an event where you charge admission as per my website." "Sounds like a promo thing for you, a marketing thing for you," said our journalist. "That way it's not a quid pro quo, I guess." "That's right," he said. Then the Marketplace producer said, "That's a dirty word nowadays." Lyon Wheeler responded, "Listen, if the worst thing I'm doing is talking with people about aluminum accumulation trends in children from vaccines, ... In later correspondence, he detailed through an assistant that for a group of 400 people, he would want about $20 US per person, netting around $10,000 Canadian. So, I mean, like, these guys do this, like, fucking circuit where they get tons of money, and because he didn't want to be called or have to apply to be some sort of international lobbyist at this event he attended to basically lobby the government about vaccines, he does workarounds where he holds events on the side where people have to pay money to watch him. So Institute for Pure and Applied Knowledge, or pure put money in my bank account. Now, that's the kind of crank he is, and in his profiteering. But now let's get into some of the other bullshit here. What do we got here? I can't remember the order I put this in. So the first claim he made was that, what was it? It was the vaccine trials. They skipped the animal trials. I don't. Have any of you heard this claim before?
I have not. No.
So I had a friend of mine who came to me very skeptical of the vaccine and was very worried. And he's like, "They skipped the animal trial. They skipped the animal trial." And it turns out that is actually not true. What happened, in fact, was they ran them simultaneously. So basically, while they were running the human trials, they were also running the animal trials. And part of that is because we want to get rid of COVID. And so they did some things to sort of like rush the procedure. But that doesn't mean that animal trials were not done. And here's the thing. Here's like the really silly thing. If you read the new Pfizer vaccine study, I haven't read the Moderna one, so I can't speak for it, but I'm sure it's pretty similar, or else they wouldn't be talking about it as great as they are right now, because they're talking about it in similar terms with the Pfizer. But the Pfizer one, like the case incidence of like dangers or harms to people are almost non-existent. So I think there was something like out of like 12,000 tested, there was like maybe, or 12,000, or anyways, there was something like 50 people who had adverse reactions. But then when you break that down, adverse reactions, they just tabulate anyone that had anything. So if you had a heart attack, they would tabulate that. But then what they try to see is, given the amount of people they tested, is that within the bounds of possibility that somebody through your test had a heart attack? It would be one thing if all 50 people had heart attacks, but if you have one person have a heart attack in your study of like 12,000 people, like that's bound to happen, right? And so they do those kind of metrics and determine that, like, even though they had 58 people with adverse things happen to them after they got the vaccine, it doesn't necessarily mean that the vaccine caused these adverse reactions. That's what's going on there. So in the end, they conclude that these things are pretty much safe. There's almost the most you'll get is like inflammation at the source, which is typical. It even occurs with like flu vaccine or like fever when you first get the vaccine, which is mild. It'll go away and is worth going through for the fact of not suffering severe complications from a COVID infection later on. So that was the first claim. And then the second was that he had peer-reviewed research. And so I found it, and he kept on saying this one thing over and over again there. What was it? Pathogenic priming? And he made sure to say that several times. Pathogenic priming, pathogenic priming. And I found his study, and it is pathogenic priming likely contributes to serious and critical illness and mortality in COVID-19 via autoimmunity. And so I read the study because why not? And I'm not a scientist, so. But here's what I gather. Here's my layman's interpretation from what I read from the study. Is what he did was he looked at what the proteins that they would be using in the mRNA vaccine. So how the mRNA vaccine works is you basically will get the vaccine and it'll have a protein, an mRNA protein, and your immune cells will like take in the protein. And that'll like signal it that this is a pathogen, and it'll create or an antigen, and it'll create antibodies that then can protect against this protein. And because it's just the protein, because it's just a protein and not the rest of the virus, you're not going to get sick or anything like this. But it'll at least tell your cells that like this is the infectious agent, and then your immune cells will have a memory, and they'll replicate and all that fun stuff, and then you'll become. You'll likely become immune or be less likely to get infected by this virus because your antibodies will be prepared to fight it. That's the idea with this thing. So what he did was he took that protein and then he looked at all like proteins within the human body, or at least like a whole bunch. And he was like, look, some of these proteins are kind of close. So what if we get the mRNA vaccine, it creates an autoimmune disorder. And so an autoimmune disorder is where your cells, your immune cells, start to attack your own body because they think your own body is like some sort of invading host or something like this, right? Or invading pathogen. And so you really don't want to have an autoimmune response because you don't want your cells attacking cells that you want to keep, right? So he's arguing that because the protein in the mRNA vaccine is similar to some of these human proteins, that therefore this vaccine could create this like huge autoimmune catastrophe where our body like turns on itself. Now here's the thing is that like we now know this was prior to the huge vaccine studies that have come out, but we now know that nobody had this kind of reaction to these vaccines. And yet here he is, now that like vaccines are coming out, he's telling us the pathogenic, whatever the fuck the word that he made up. Here, we'll go listen.
That particular vaccine might cause serious problems for pathogenic priming.
But we at
Pathogenic
Rebel, we're
priming.
listening.
right? So he's now making the rounds, telling everyone, like, we have to be worried about this pathogenic priming. But of course, like, science went through the processes, and there's no problem. So you can tell, like, why that might get published, like, why his little paper might get published. Because, like, that's interesting. This protein here is like these proteins here. And if you go to any low-tier journal that has, like, some peer review, they might go, yeah, sure, why the hell not? We'll publish this. But now he gets to run around pretending he's some peer-reviewed journalist, and he's proven somehow with his peer-reviewed journals that these vaccines are going to destroy us all. Isn't that lovely?
If you get the COVID vaccine, you'll get sick and mutate and turn into COVID man, and then you'll either be a really bad, a really interesting crime fighter, or you'll be a supervillain, and we can't have that.
Yeah. I wish that would be way cooler than the actual thing, which is
more people would get the vaccine if that were the case.
Your superhero name could be the Mask.
Yeah.
Oh, it'd be so good. Never mind. I want this vaccine now.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, is like the real side is like a lot more. But well, actually, it is kind of cool. Like, these mRNA vaccines are new, and the thing is, they've been testing them on animals and things for like a long time. But like, we should admire the fact, like, this new technology. We might have vaccines against like the cold virus and stuff like that. And wouldn't that be cool? That would be cool. I think it's neat. But of course, they got, like, I just love it. It's like grifters upon grifters. Like, this guy is clearly a grifter. Like, you saw me read that CBC article, and now he gets to run around, and then Rebel gets to take him and play him, and it's all bullshit all the way down, all the fucking way down. And it's like sad that, like, so much research that I did just for like that 10-second fucking clip. What are you gonna do?
We're watching, we're researching, and we're sharing with you important information you deserve to know, but can't easily come across. And since I'm not a scientist or a doctor, take a listen to my interview about the COVID-19 vaccinations with Dr. Bhakti.
How effective has the journey for finding a vaccine been for coronaviruses in general in the past?
Well, in the past, the path has been disastrous. I mean, everything has failed. Now, I want to get down to this virus because this is what's on our mind. Let me go back to this statement that if anyone under 70 contracts this virus and is infected by the virus, his chances of survival are over 99.9%, as John Ioannidis has told us, and he is always right, all right?
So he just name dropped someone and is like, he's always right. In fact, John Ioannidis was definitely wrong at this point. Elron, you might actually know who John Ioannidis is. They were someone who was big on the like replication crisis stuff. I think he had some journal article that like went viral, having to do with the fact where like basically most studies in science are not being reproduced, and
I remember this, and I remember his academic Twitter was abuzz with his article on COVID-19.
Well, yeah, because he went against the consensus and then went and spoke to Donald Trump, and a lot of people think that he convinced Donald Trump to go with this herd immunity strategy, which has really worked out, hasn't it? And he was wrong. He basically, like, when our doctor here, Bakati here, is saying that he's always been right, he was fucking wrong at the beginning of this thing, because he was like, it's going to be like, no one is going to actually be sick of this thing, and we're going to have like few deaths, that it's going to be like on par with the flu. And clearly 300,000 people is not the flu. It is way worse than the flu. And Bakati can claim all he wants, but like Ioannidis, who used to be like a hero for a lot of science-based medicine folk, are now like, what happened to this guy? Why the hell is he doing this to his own career? So who knows? Maybe we'll get a John Ioannidis grift in the near future. Well,
5 out of 10,000 infected individuals who are under 70 years of age will die because of or with the virus, meaning that your chances of dying are so small that no vaccine in the world will reduce them further. It's simply impossible. Then
so this is why, like, I have a feeling that this is like where his denial comes in, because do you hear how he worded that? He's like, people will die with the virus. So it's not that the virus is going to like cause the complications that result in the disease. He's saying that like because they have other problems, that's what's killing them. It has nothing to do with the fact that they have them. They just happen to have the virus. They died with the virus. It wasn't what actually killed them.
They spontaneously died standing next to a physical embodiment of the virus.
And I also love what he said. He said, because the numbers are already so low, it would be impossible to lower them further with a vaccine. And like, not supported. Just he just threw it out there, and it's like how many smallpox victims have there been in the last several years? 0. And you want to know why? Because you can, with a vaccine schedule, reduce infections to 0 when you eradicate the virus from the planet. So for him to just say it's impossible, yeah, all right, bud. All right, whatever you want to say there, bud. It's like old man yells at sky at this point.
Chances of your landing in the ICU are about less than 1%. That's all right, because your immune system.
I feel like you'll
trained
like
to
this one,
combat
Elron, too.
This virus, and it does it very well. You know, we've been coexisting with these coronaviruses since the beginning of man, and we've done very, very well. This is one of the most successful viruses living with the flu virus, by the way, because a successful virus likes to infect you, but he doesn't want to kill you, and they don't. They don't kill you because your immune system is trained to chase them out of your body when the time has come. And the time always comes after a few days, and then you get up and go back to work if you still have work. All right.
Yeah, that's if you still have work.
Yeah.
Incredible.
The viruses don't want to kill you. Didn't you? Didn't you know these viruses?
I just want to be your friend.
Yeah. They have conscious thought. They're like figuring it out. I mean, this is typical like balance of nature shit. Like this stuff like always frustrates me. And every time I hear people talking about balance of nature shit, which is like there's some sort of equilibrium, so the viruses aren't going to kill you. I love to reflect on the the cyanobacteria in one of the mass extinction events in life's history on Earth, which is that at one point in our past, we almost had a complete extinction of all life on Earth because these bacteria overproduced, over-reproduced, took over everything, and then basically toxified our atmosphere and wiped out most life on Earth. And so the idea is like somehow like life, because we've been living with these coronaviruses, that somehow a new strain can't mutate and kill us all is like viruses have wiped out entire species before on this planet. That has happened. Like some things change over time. Like life isn't just one constant state of equilibrium. Like what the fuck is he talking about?
Yeah, I love like the just ignoring the evolutionary arms race we constantly find ourselves in.
Yeah.
Like virus, like, and it's what we're seeing. It's exactly what we're seeing right now with COVID-19, right? A virus mutates, and now it's gonna kill us unless we do something to get rid of it. It's it's gonna be fine. The will of God or the free market or whatever is gonna swoop in and save us.
And granted, if this virus takes out all of humanity, which I don't think it will, but let's say it was that deadly, and it took out all of humanity. Yes, it would even take out itself. But like that, what does that have to do with it? Like, it's almost like in his mind, like what he's trying to say is like viruses won't do that. Like viruses want to replicate and survive. Yes, hello, Simone. My cat needs to, should I show everyone my cat? Maybe this will bring some light to the conversation. Oh my god. Oh, you're such a big kitty. Oh, yeah. Meow at the crowd. Give them a good meow.
Meow.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
What an absolute chunk.
Please, Mr. Picardi, please vaccinate me. Yes, no, she is, she's always been just a huge cat, but she is also slightly obese. Part of it is we don't, just busy, don't play with her as much, but We should. I'm gonna try to get. The thing is, we used to have those toys, with the feathers, and get her to like run around all the fucking place, but then the kids break them and all that fun shit. But okay, say goodbye to everyone. Goodbye. All right, now go meow elsewhere, please.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Every once in a while, she'll feel the need that she has to come and tell me something. I can't even remember what I was fucking talking about. Something about nature. Oh yeah, these things evolve and kill us. Like even it could evolve and wipe us out and then die off, and that's perfectly possible. There's no reason to think that like viruses have a mind of their own where they want to survive. They just mutate and then replicate until they're no longer capable of replicating. Because that's what happens.
But if you go around doing things that politicians are telling you to do,
Oh
Trudeau,
yeah, shit.
my God, I once thought he was an intelligent man.
So we're gonna get some like Trudeau shit here, but then this is like, I want you to pay attention because this is so fucking beautiful. Like he starts getting into poetry about how we're all doomed, and it's fantastic. Prepare yourself for this.
But maybe he is very much more than you know, I think. That's why he's doing it.
So what is your opinion on this whole immunity pass that is seeming less of a conspiracy and more of a reality?
Rubbish.
Why?
Look, first of all, what is this password going to tell you? That you may have antibodies or you may not have antibodies, but as we have explained in this book, we've gone to great lengths to try to explain everything about immunity that anyone and everyone should know in a simple fashion because, dear world citizens, if you don't sit down and do a bit of thinking yourself, you are going to be led by the nose and you are going to end up somewhere on meadows. You're already leaving your homes. You've left freedom. You're now voluntarily following the Pied Piper's toll. But they're not the rats that are following the Pied Pipers now. It's you. Masks, distance from each other, and thinking that you're going to go to the promised land. That promised land is going to be a meadow where you're going to be fed with what you need to exist, but not more.
What would you say to
The newest and most educated philosopher of our time.
We are the rats. We're the rats following the Pied Piper, and only be giving what you need, but no more.
We are all rats.
For you are rats. That was like, there's another moment coming up where it gets that intense, but like that was just so, he's so intense. Which like, now it's like crossing a line where I'm like, he really, I don't know if he like really believes the bullshit, but he's like clearly like paranoid about like some authoritarian public health officials telling him how to live his life. Like you could tell that like terrifies him. They're coming for you, are the rats. So here's the thing. The next clip we're gonna listen is, when I heard this, I was like, there's no way he can think that this is true. For someone who taught immunology throughout his whole life, there's no fucking way that he thinks this is true. But we're gonna hear it. Here it comes.
to the people who are going to, I think that the narrative is most likely going to be, well, you need to get the vaccine to protect people like yourself that are over the age of 70. What would you say to those people that believe that that's the only choice they have?
How can vaccinating you save me? I don't understand this.
Well, isn't it the herd immunity through the vaccination?
It is.
Did you catch that? How can vaccinating you save me? I don't understand this. Says the person who studied immunology before.
We live in a society.
Yeah,
Well,
no
it's
patience, remember?
It's like, if you're not vaccinated, and I, even though I got vaccinated, yet maybe I was vaccinated because vaccines are 95% effective, which means 5% of people, give or take, will receive a vaccine, but it won't give them sufficient immunity. For whatever reason, this happens. Now, you decide not to vaccinate, you get infected, and then me, your close friend who got the vaccine, though it wasn't as effective, comes into contact with you, and now I get infected with the virus. So, yes, you getting vaccinated could have saved me, because if you got vaccinated, maybe you likely, very likely, in fact 95% likely it would have worked on you, and it would have prevented you from getting it and then spreading it onto me, who, unbeknownst to me, I didn't know that I had a ineffective vaccine.
Well, and also like immunocompromised people who might not be able to get vaccinated because their immune systems wouldn't be able to handle it. Like,
yeah,
no, I was
the
going
whole
to
point
say
of herd immunity. Like, that's the whole thing.
Yeah, I was going to say that vaccination speeds up the herd immunity process and protects people that legitimately can't be vaccinated by helping to eradicate or send into remission these diseases. Like, we've seen these things like what is it? Whatever the MMR vaccine prevents, measles, mumps, rubella. Like, there's been a resurgence of that in certain areas where anti-vaxxers have come out in big numbers, right? And it's that's a pretty demonstrable reason for why the more people get vaccinated, the better you can protect those that can't.
I mean, that's the funny thing is Andrea brings it up right at the end there about herd immunity. I mean, that is the whole point about herd immunity, right? Is the reason why in cases, so anti-vaxxers like to point out this, in I think it was Minnesota, where there was a case where Somalis were not the Somali community in Minneapolis, I think, was got inundated by a lot of anti-vaxxers, including Andrew Wakefield, who's one of the big name anti-vaxxers, and convinced a lot of them not to get vaccinated. And what happens there is if you have a big portion of the population just stop vaccinating, even people who get vaccinated will start to become ill because the disease now has a foothold in the people who refuse to vaccinate, which is the reason why you want herd immunity. Herd immunity means you have a sufficient number of the population vaccinated such that the 5% of people that I was talking about who got an ineffective vaccine remain safe because you have enough people in the population vaccinated that the disease can't grab a hold. And that's this is why it's a community-oriented thing. And this is actually why I think conservatives fucking hate vaccinations. And I love, for whatever reason, there's this false narrative out there suggesting that left-wing people are anti-vaccine. And I find that it's usually the kind of crunchy people where they're not left-wing, they just maybe want to grow their vegetables in their backyard and stuff like that, are the people who are against vaccine. But it's not because they're left-wing. I think they're really conservative in the end, in certain ways. But there's a conservative narrative there. It was how dare you, society, tell me what to do with my individual rights to do this thing, when it's no, the reason why we're telling you to do it is to protect society. It's a societal thing. We all have to do it unless you can't because you're immunocompromised or for whatever reason.
My body, my choice, except you.
But yes, there's the obvious stupid contradiction with or people who are use the language of abortion activists, but are against abortion in the end anyways. But it's it's more than that. It's they don't see the benefit of helping all of society. Where it's why wouldn't you want to help? And helping society helps you. This is this whole individualistic sort of society or American culture predominantly that has infected Canada too. It's just absurd to me. It's we should help everyone and then that improves all of society. I want to pay a bit more taxes such that I help people who end up in unlucky circumstances from me, and that makes society better off. Why all this I got my own and it's mine and don't you tell me what to do with my life, and I don't want to experience any little inconvenience even if it means that it might help society. It's just a fucking selfish attitude. And now people are gonna I hope enough people are going to get vaccinated, but if assholes like this keep spreading this garbage, you're going to get a lot of people be yeah, why does your vaccine help me? It doesn't. I'm not going to get vaccinated. Why do I have to have a little bit of an arm soreness? Ugh. And that's what it's going to come down to. Here's the thing, as someone who's engaged in this activism for a long time, this shit really pisses me off because a lot of these people, it comes down to a kind of selfishness, and it annoys me.
Established that no healthy person, a person without symptoms, has ever spread the illness, COVID-19, which is the pneumonia, to anyone outside the hospital, okay? In the general public, this has never happened. And don't believe anyone who says it has happened. Ask him to show you where that is documented. No one will ever be able to show you that.
Well,
So no one will be able to show you that. So I told you I would go back to this study here. So we got a study here. I'm going to read the top portion of it because it says here, so this is the one that was the laboratory diagnosis of coronavirus disease 2019 frequently asked questions. And in the opening paragraph here, it goes, from observations in tens of thousands of patients around the world, we now know that the usual incubation period of coronavirus disease 2019 is 5 days, and that the vast majority of infected patients who develop symptoms will do so within 10 to 14 days. Viral shedding from the respiratory tract usually begins about 3 days prior to the onset of symptoms and declines once a patient becomes symptomatic. Detection of specific antibodies typically begins during the first week of symptoms, and many patients seroconvert by the end of the second week after symptoms begin, with nearly all patients becoming seropositive by the end of the third week. And then it goes here. Some patients remain asymptomatic despite viral shedding, and asymptomatic or pre-symptomatic individuals make an important contribution to SARS-CoV-2 transitions, and then it lists some sources here. It is believed that most asymptomatic individuals will seroconvert as well. Although more data are needed, the majority of patients with COVID-19 recover uneventfully, but some patients progress to develop pneumonia, hypoxemia, systemic inflammation, and hypercoagulable state. That's a weird word, hypercoagulable state. Anyways, so the point is here, this is arguing that there is people who are asymptomatic. I read an interesting article too. I didn't cite it here. But there's interesting stuff, like we talk about asymptomaticity a lot, and there's actual evidence that it might not be that many people are asymptomatic, that it could be that people are just like symptomatic but so mild that they don't know that they're symptomatic. And this whole distinction between asymptomaticity and like symptomaticity is kind of like a misnomer, because no one's like getting tested as to whether or not like they're actually symptomatic. So like I could have a slight cough and just not attribute it to the fact that I think I have COVID, and I could get tested and still not attribute my cough to the thing. But like every time I cough, I'm shedding the virus, even though I might consider myself asymptomatic. It's like I don't have any symptoms. I have a weed cough, or like whatever you think you might have, right? And so this whole notion about asymptomaticity or symptomaticity is kind of silly to begin with. But here's the thing. There were some sources there, and so I have them too. I'm going to pull that up. I think it's this one. This is just like a neat early example. So this was a case study back when COVID was first starting. And I'm not going to read it, but it's COVID-19 transmission within a family cluster by pre-symptomatic carriers in China. And so basically this whole family got infected from one individual who was pre-symptomatic. So initially they weren't showing any signs. They did test positive later, but they basically infected their whole family. And almost none of them like some of them had symptoms, others not, but only one of them had a severe case of pneumonia at the end of this. But it was the fact of like, you didn't need to be showing symptoms before you were able to infect this entire household. And there's tons of studies like this. You can go look them up. This fucking dude right here is completely full of shit, and here he is on Rebel News telling lies to people, because why the hell not? Like here's what you have to believe too, is like every other health official that's going on TV telling people that like you can have asymptomatic spread, that they're all fucking lying to you. Every last one of them across the entire world. It's a whole coordinated effort, all to lie to you just so they can like what? Make you not go to Walmart? Like I don't understand what the point of this is. What's the global conspiracy, you know? They're gonna keep you in your home, and then you're not gonna be able to buy your Twizzlers.
In my province, our provincial health officer, she says, primarily it's in the home. So are you saying that it's not even transmitting from person to person within our homes?
I did not say that. I said that
Okay,
if it's been transmitted within our homes, you never get the severe illness.
I see.
Because the viral load is so low.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing to do with it. If you drink 1 ml of vodka, you're not going to be drunk.
Why do they need?
So again, I'll just pause there to be like, that is just fucking bullshit. I mean, I showed you the case where like there was clear household spread, and one of the people in the household got a severe illness because he's saying it as if like, what was it, like you drink one shot of like a beer or whatever, you're not going to get drunk. But the thing is, like, the virus does this fancy thing. I don't know if you like heard about it. It's called reproducing, where the virus can like replicate itself and grow within you. And I'm not sure that your tequila is doing that when you drink. Just in case you wanted to know, viruses are not alcoholic beverages.
Ah, shit. I just drank. Never mind.
Oh my god, this guy is so fucking stupid. And so, yeah, so here we are about some more vaccine shit.
So many vaccines for COVID-19.
Because one shot will never be able to protect you over a long time. And that's, there's such a thing as booster. When antibodies, when you vaccinate and the antibody comes, all right, you may be protected because when the virus comes, the antibody will catch it, okay? But it's a one-to-one game. One virus, one antibody. Well, it's not one-to-one, but it's, once the antibody has bound to one virus, it's not available to bind to the next virus. So if a high viral dose comes into your nose and lung, you're going to get this damn virus anyway.
So what he's saying here is kind of trivially true, in that, yes, if you have someone sneeze in your face, even if you have antibodies that can fight this virus, you are going to be infected with the virus, even if like your antibodies are going to destroy that virus within the next few hours or days or whatever, right? But immediately when you inhale that bacteria, the viral load, you will get infected with it. Now, this whole, it almost makes it sound like he doesn't think, it's like he's arguing you only have one antibody per like one virus in your system, but it's like your body produces antibodies. And it's specifically, it's like, it's not like your body is just like always ready to take on this one thing. It like produces antibodies that can fight specific pathogens when they arise in your system. Part of it is like you're building cell immunity within, or cell memory within your immune system, which is the whole point of vaccination. It's not like what vaccines do is increase or decrease antibodies. And I think he expounds on that further, where you can clearly see that what he's talking about, it's like getting a vaccine, and the reason why you need a booster is because somehow your like antibody count is getting lower or some shit.
Meaning the protection is never absolute. It's a game of numbers. Now, the thing is that after a few months, this antibody is going to go down because the immune system is not stupid. It doesn't keep on producing antibodies if it's not necessary, you see. Mm-hmm. And to get this up again, you need a boost, okay? But you can't keep on boosting against a virus that is going to come in then 3 months later. Mm-hmm. So the whole thing is rather stupid, actually. Sorry, but that's the simple.
That's the terms I understand.
Schoolboy understands this.
Yeah.
Why doesn't Trudeau understand this, or does he?
Yes, or does he? So, well, it's a great.
So you can see, like, what this is a guy, again, someone who studied this shit, thinks that getting a booster, the point of getting a booster vaccine is because it makes your antibodies go back up when they were going down. That's how he wants to communicate to the lay public how vaccines work. What vaccines do is create immune memory. That's what they do. They don't increase or decrease antibodies. They make so basically what happens is, what they used to do is give you like an attenuated virus, which means that it basically, like the mRNA vaccine, you give an attenuated virus, which means it won't do all the shit we don't like that viruses do to us. But it has the proteins inside such that when your, I think it's your B cells, which are part of your immune system, they'll come in, the protein will get sucked inside, and it'll like read it, and then go, ah, shit, here's this bad protein, and it'll create antibodies that can then, when more of those proteins come in, they'll attack them. And so it builds the memory, and then your B cells start reproducing, and now you have like a bunch of cells that have the memory such that if the pathogen gets reintroduced into your body, your cells go into action and produce the antibodies necessary to take out this pathogen. That's what like immunity is. It's not like these antibodies go up and down. And this guy fucking studied it. Was a professor. I'm just a guy who reads shit. And here's the thing: is I do have to say, if there was any like immunologists or people who study cell biology, like my explanation right here was a complete bastardization. Obviously, there's way more to it, but like his was like a bastardization of a bastardization. Like it was so stripped of any nuance that it was completely and utterly meaningless and dangerous, because he's basically saying vaccines don't work.
Jody, you have to understand that if you had more patience,
Yeah.
you'd be able to understand what he's saying.
Yeah. Was antibodies go up, antibodies go down.
Words, truer words never spoken.
We need his face on one of those like stonks things with the like, but the antibodies go up. Oh my god. And that's it. I think the rest of it is them just flexing on Trudeau. And I guess I said watch it to the end. Maybe I think he says some more poetic shit. So let's have fun. Or he promotes something. Oh yeah, I remember.
Great opportunity for the Great Reset. So
this is it. Let's go.
That's what he sees, I think.
Yeah,
so.
Drea
well, thank
has
you
to
so much
mention
for
the Great
speaking into
Reset
this
for
very
some reason.
pressing matter, and I hope many see it. And if you
hope
want, you can touch
nobody
on
sees
where
it.
to find your book, Coronavirus: False Alarm. Primarily, it's on Amazon, I believe, but we have to make sure we check out the correct author names are there, which we'll put on the screen as well right now.
I wonder whether I might say one word of goodbye to the Canadians.
Yes, please do.
One would
I
have
want
goodbye
you
with
to
the
know
Canadians.
that there is an international movement that we are not the conspiracy theorists anymore, because there is such a thing as the Great Barrington Declaration, which was born in South Africa, and 45,000 doctors worldwide have signed this declaration saying that all the measures have to be stopped now. 700,000 others outside the medical profession have also signed.
Nice.
Then there's a resistance movement just born today in Belgium, where they are demanding that all these measures are immediately stopped because they are unfounded. And last thing, the British are also standing up. So there have been a number of articles, short articles in the British Medical Journal, which is one of the leading journals in the world, saying how rash and how unscientific all this has been.
Oh, yeah.
So if you Canadians will also join, we would be pleased to have you.
Wow. Absolutely. Well, we'll provide that at rebelnews.com.
Drea
We'll
says,
put
oh,
the link up for
wow.
that as well. So make sure you guys check that out.
Wow.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me, and good luck, good fortune to all of you.
Good fortune to all of you. So here's... So now I'll end it with a little bit of joy. So what did he mention? The Barrington Declaration? Or, I mean, I don't know if it's joy. Oh, fuck, I was going to leave that open. Well, we're running out of time anyways. This has, like, been a long one, but I thought it was semi-important. So he mentions this Barrington Declaration. And it's basically this petition, sort of, that people can sign on to, basically saying that, like, these COVID lockdowns must end, or kind of shit like this. And then it's got a bunch of people who sign it and all this fun stuff. And I just, for whatever reason, and I don't know if I got lucky, I was like, who are these people? And I'm going down the list here, and I'm like, okay, field or department, and I'm reading some of the fields. And some of them are you're just like, why are you, like, tuning into this? And one caught my eye. I was like, neurology. Why is this neurology person signing this thing? Like, how does he know about, like, COVID? And so I was like, okay, I'm going to check out this Dr. Alan Mazurik. And with my Google search, I found, oh shit, where is it? I found this wonderful tweet. A tweet by a Sir Rudith Julianeth, where he, here, let's see if I could share it. So this is the quality of people we're getting on this list. So we got Rudy Giuliani. Doctor questions whether Joe Biden could function as president. And
so, when you put this all together, Doctor, how serious is this for someone that wants to take on, I guess, the most difficult job in the world?
Well, what struck me that's so serious, and it really is quite serious, is the rapidity of his decline. If you look at how he behaved during the debates, which were only a few months ago, and he was clearly having problems, as we just pointed out, with all of these videos.
Yeah, we didn't need to watch the rest. The point is, this neurologist here this is the type of person that's going to be used and promoted by Rudy Giuliani to indicate that Joe Biden has cognitive decline. And he's the same person that wants to sign this fucking petition that argues that we need to stop any COVID restrictions, stop with the masks, stop with all that stuff, because the pandemic isn't real. So that's the quality of shit we got from this guy.
Can we zoom in on Europe and see what countries signed on to that from there?
So it's not countries. This is just like the amount of people within.
Yeah, I just mean like where it's most heavy, because I can see Europe or the UK.
United
Kingdom
Germany
and
and Germany have the most. I can't. Is there a zoom in button? There is no zoom in button on
There's
this.
no
map.
zoom?
Yeah.
Can you hold control? Can you hold control and scroll in, and that does it, or is this not compatible with that?
Oh.
How dare they?
Yeah, control zoom kind of helped. Yeah, Austria looks pretty big. Switzerland has big, but mostly UK and Germany. I mean, I love Portugal is not a high count because even though their courts ruled, but they still don't believe them. But like Canada is big, America obviously.
So it's the big like QAnon places that it looks like.
Yep, mostly the English-speaking world. So Australia, America, Canada, English,
Well,
England, and then it looks like Germany in them.
Yeah, that's what I mean by like the QAnon places, because QAnon's
Well,
real.
I will say, I think Bacardi is in Germany. That's where he's from, and that's where he taught in university. All this immune stuff.
Of course.
But here, these numbers too, they're not reflective of. So as you can see, the numbers up here, it's concerned citizens.
Yeah.
And then so that's 702,000. So most of these numbers are concerned citizens, but the breakdown is 12,943 of them are medical and public health scientists. And then 39,028 are medical practitioners. Although, I mean, again, neurology is a medical science, but to what extent is it relevant in terms of whether or not lockdowns are effective is open for debate. You know, because like I think the operative public health scientists are probably the more important number, because like, you know, my foot doctor might be able to tell me like the effect COVID has on my feet, but might not be able to tell me whether or not shutting down a Walmart is going to decrease the spread of this thing.
If you scroll down to the map again, I just really like the dynamic. I'm gonna have a Sarah Palin moment of like the people in Germany yelling up to Scandinavia, saying like, "We need to shut everything down," and the people yelling down, "You're dumb."
Oh.
I mean, to be fair, most of Scandinavia just didn't shut down, and we're like, oh yeah, our old people will die, but like whatever, we're used to that.
Yeah.
I love he said that this petition was made at the so what is this? It's the Great Barrington Declaration made in South Africa, but South Africa only has 3,253 signatories to this. So there you go. Oh my god. So here's the thing. These vaccines are safe. Most of the studies are showing that they're safe. I'm all for, you know, it's probably going to be a slow rollout to a certain extent because, of course, and they're going to give it to frontline workers first. And the whole point of these rollouts, too, is they get more information as it comes in. And if there are complications, they'll be raised, they'll be studied, all that fun stuff. And I hope that the health officials stay on that and communicate well to the public. But it's looking really good. In terms of other vaccines, it's on par, seemingly, so far, with the data that we have, that the vaccines are pretty comparable to other vaccines in terms of, like, almost no severe side effects. So, hopefully, if you get the opportunity, get vaccinated, and we can finally run in the streets and lick each other with moderation, because, I mean, other diseases still exist. And get consent. Get consent.
Yeah, that's what I've been missing all summer.
Yeah.
Jody, as soon as we're both vaccinated, I am going to visit you.
Hell yeah.
And you will be licked.
Oh. I'll even take a hug. Hugs, not licks. Instead of campaign. So
more pepper.
I think this was our longest stream yet, and it was pretty long. I could have maybe sped it up a bit longer, but I think the 1.25 was just enough of like a speed up. Maybe 1.5 would have been too fast. I don't know. That being said, thanks for anyone who hung in there and watched. I appreciate it. And get vaccinated. Also, you can donate to the Patreon if you want to. My microphone is doing some weird shit. I will eventually need to buy a new one. But the more you donate, the more it's easier for me to do that. Because right now I kind of have to wait till I get funds figured out. But if more people donate, less figuring out to do. So thank you for those who do donate already, including those who were in this chat. And thank you for joining me. I will now find someone to raid. And in the meantime, say goodbye, fellow friends. Or not.
Hey, I was waiting to see if anybody else was going first, but have a good night.
I did it again. I said,
fair, I don't even know, like...
in a really high-pitched voice, and it didn't come through. So it really is my high-pitched octave.
Yeah.
Bye!
Bye! I think I'm going to rate it correctly. We're sending you to Aranok. And I think Aranok's playing some Destiny 2. Aranok is some cool folk. So, I guess I gotta do the right words here. Hashtag raid Aranok. Alright. We're about to raid. Thanks again. I love you. Get vaccinated. And, find a safe way to experience the holiday cheer with your family. Unless you hate your family. In that case, find some ways to celebrate it without them. Bye! Alright. Yeah, sorry that was long, but didn't know it was going to be that long. I timed it for the most part.
Impassion.
Okay, I am going to head off because I still have half an hour in the finale of The Mandalorian.
Nice. Yeah, I'm gonna watch that over the weekend. With we still haven't watched the episode before that as well. But...
I just watched that one today as well, and it was
nice.
Andy and I are 4 episodes behind, so we might take Sunday and just like watch The Mandalorian for 4 hours.
Hell yeah.
I gotta watch this show. I gotta get caught up.
You have to get him. Oh, thank you.
Pretty good.
I really appreciate it. I'm not sure what I did to warrant a raid, but I appreciate it. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you've enjoyed the more serious conversation about COVID and stuff.
Yeah. I'm heading off too, everybody. It was lovely chatting with you.
If anyone
Sorry,
has any
no,
topics,
I'm just laughing because Aranok was like,